Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to my classmates, wherever you are. And of course, greetings to Professor Matthew Marquez, my course professor for the course in ASEAN Studies, ASEAN 271, Diaspora in ASEAN. So, in partial fulfillment for that subject, I'll be reporting I have chosen the Muslim diaspora in Southern Philippines. As part of the topic, I have chosen topic for the diaspora. Plenty we have already tackled asynchronously different diasporas in Southeast Asia, but it's near to my heart and being geographically living or residing in Muslim areas, majority Muslim areas, although personally I'm not a Muslim, but already subscribe some practices that they have done. Uh, I have chosen near to my heart the Muslim diaspora in ASEAN, okay, of which we will concentrate on Mindanao, Sulu Archipelago. I am currently residing in the city of Zamboanga, wherein although not geographically part of BARM or Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, there are at least 40 to 50% residents here who are Muslim. And Zamboanga City to be in fact the melting pot of different cultures. Bisaya, Zamboangueño, Chabacano, Muslim Tausug, Taymanghod ko Muslims, Sama Bangingi, Yakan, from Basilan, Sulun, Taytay, and other Muslim culture. To begin with, I will trace the historical origins and the Arabic or Arab diaspora connection, how the Muslim diaspora in the southern Mindanao influenced the Muslim or the Arabic. We will also explain how the local sultanates shape the social and political life. We will also outline the impacts of colonialism and some armed conflicts, especially the Marawi siege and Zamboanga siege. We will also describe the transition to autonomy under BARM or Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, and we will also highlight socio-economic challenges as well as development opportunities such as in education reform and the halal economy. Throughout this presentation, I will also draw from the academic studies and government data to ground our discussion in evidence. And at the end of this presentation, I will perhaps draw or lay down some recommendations and some case study of Marawi to illustrate practical recovery and reconciliation efforts. So the very purpose of this lesson is to map the history, the contemporary challenges, opportunities, and contribution of Muslim communities in Southern Philippines. Specifically, we will review the arrival and the spread of Islam and Arabic influence. We also examine the political economy and the path and the political economy of sultanates and colonial disruptions. We also analyze conflict dynamics, displacement, and future policy direction. Uh, the path to autonomy, and also assess socio-economic indicators, cultural contributions, and future policy directions. Okay, I should be able to explain why Bangsamoro questions arises or emerge. So identify major social and economic barriers to development and describe tangible strategies for sustainable peace and inclusive growth. Okay. So for the early Islamic arrival and Arab connection, Islam, the religion of Islam, reached in Sulu Islands not Sulu province. In early concept, Sulu is that the archipelago composed of Tawi-Tawi, now today Sulu province, Basilan. That's the Sulu archipelago. The Islam brought by the Arabic or Arab diaspora reached Sulu and Mindanao in the 30th century via Arab and Malay traders and ulama. When we say ulama, yung mga imam, uh, religious personalities. Okay? Of course, Arabic literacy and madrasas tradition shape religious education. Okay? That's why some madrasa schools still exist. Islamic teachings, not only in church but in education, exists, especially here in the cities of Zamboanga. And integration into Indian Ocean trade networks. Okay? Okay. So, it, the Islam again, reached the southern Philippine archipelago from a wider Indian Ocean sphere around 13th century, transmitted through Arab and Malay traders, religious scholars, and missionaries. These early contacts introduced Arabic literacy, Quranic instruction, and juridical concepts. That's why we have the birth of Sharia law, of which the Philippine government recognizes. Okay, that seeded madrasa tradition and local Islamic jurisprudence. So, yung legalidad or konsepto ng Sharia law ay, as of this moment, recognized by the Philippine government. So Arabs or Arabic therefore functioned as a liturgical and scholarly language rather than as a vernacular. The coastal polities or meaning yung mga communities integrated into regional maritime trade networks that link them into Malay, Indonesian, and broader Muslim commercial hubs. Now, the contemporary outcome of that is the BIMP IAGA, wherein networks within those regions here in southern Philippines together with Malaysia, Brunei, and Indonesia transacts. That's why yung nagko-contribute ng economy ng southern Philippines as of this moment. Okay? That brought Muslim commercial hubs. These connections fostered economic prosperity, diplomatic ties, and cultural exchange well before the arrival of European colonizers. So this happens before we were colonized by the Europeans, Spaniards. Okay? Understanding this pre-colonial foundation is critical because it explains why Islamic institutions and sultanate governance became resilient social anchors for centuries. Okay? Now, from the 15th to 16th centuries, the sultanates of Sulu and Maguindanao emerged and organized political entities that combine Islam with the indigenous governance system known as Adat. So, doesn't mean that they were colonized or influenced by Islam. Traditions were also erased. That's the very positive thing of, Arab diaspora in the earlier times. Unlike the colonialist Spaniards, of which they almost erase the identity or the Filipino identity of the people of the Philippines. Arabic or Islam, Arabic diaspora, try to blend in with the what is the norms of that postland. Okay? Meaning, yung mga practices ng mga tao na tinatawag na adat, no, as per Kwan, they still blend it in with Islam. Hindi nila binura. Making it, although they are similar Islam with the Middle Eastern one or the West Asia one. Okay? But may mga distinction. Tulad nito, yung nasa picture. In the picture, that's a Muslim wedding. Southeast Asian wedding. Ganyan yung mga kasal ng mga Muslim dito sa Mindanao, sa Indonesia, sa Malaysia. Pero iba rin yung tradisyon doon sa Arabia. Okay. Look at the very colorful design. Okay. Okay. Moreover, these sultanates exercise control over maritime trade routes, negotiated treaties, and maintained diplomatic and economic relations across Southeast Asia, functioning both as political and commercial hubs. So primarily, they are not only more cultural but contributes to the development of the political and commercial hubs in the region, the area. Their authority rested on the mixture of kinship, religious legitimacy, and customary law, which allowed them to sustain relative autonomy and resist incursions first from the regional competitors and later from the Spanish colonial forces. That's why on the earlier part of Spanish colonization here in the Philippines, this area in the Mindanao was the last, somewhat the last was colonized because of the resistance of the Muslim diaspora. So ayaw nilang, they really fought back against those Western colonizers. Okay? Hurry. The institutional legacy of Sultanate shaped patterns of leadership. Okay? They manifest leadership, land tenure, and conflict resolution long after the colonial intervention. So those kind of practices, as if practiced in the by the colonizers, Western colonizer, has been already been established here before pa sila dumating. So we have already practiced that kind of concept. Okay. Now, the ethno-linguistic and cultural identity of Muslim diaspora in the Philippines. Okay? The Muslim population here is ethnically and linguistically diverse. For instance, here in Zamboanga City, we are I call it melting pot of culture and religion here because we are not just only unlike the other regions or areas dominated by the single culture, but rather with multiple uh, roots or origins. Okay, ethnically and linguistically diverse, of which major groups includes the Tausug, Maranao, Magindanaon, and Sama, Iyakan, and the likes. Ang dami pa niyan. Iranon, mga sub-sub na uh, culture or tribes, and of which they can be identified by the religion Islam. Okay? Of which these different groups have its distinct language and cultural practices. So that's why if I go downtown and talk to someone else, even though I've been by birth residing here for 25 years, I cannot still understand what they were saying. So parang maloko pa rin nila ako when they keep on talking using their uh, native language. Kasi ang hirap i-determine eh. There are some words I'm just only familiar, but perhaps it's too difficult because of the diversity of the language they have. Okay? The influence of Arabic retains importance in their religious education and ritual context. That's why mga Arabic scriptures, yung mga Quran nila, mga materials, the name of God, they were in unison. They call it Allah, Allah, okay, Allah, whatever. They have that in unison. The Arabic influence that. But in language, local language and performance traditions such as kulintang, yan o yung nasa picture, yan, di naman yan Arabic in nature, that is Southeast Asian in nature. originated yan, no? In relation to, hindi talaga siya Islamic, galing from Arabia. Ibang-iba talaga yung pagka-Muslim ng maritime Southeast Asia in comparison with those in Arabia. Okay? The carb ukil motif, ukil or ukir, no? If you can see the UP Sablay ukir or ukil, yung character na yun is influenced from Muslim or Muslim groups or Muslim diaspora in southern Mindanao. And the weaving traditions, okay? Weaving traditions, yung mga mag-colorful na damit, na clothing, na, civil service requires. Being me, as a government an employee, requires us to wear every Monday ASEAN attire, no? Na, since meron naman kaming Yakan village dito, somewhere in one barangay here, we just bought a cloth there, nagpagawa. So that would serve as our Monday attire, no? Yun nagsaserve ng Monday attire namin every Monday. Not only in compliance with civil service regulation or rules, but of course to showcase the Muslim tradition and the identity wherein this kind of culture really exists in our society. Okay? No, like festivals like Idul Adha, ay yung Ramadan, after ng Ramadan, I don't know with their Luzon, Visayas, and basta dito sa amin in a Muslim majority areas, after the fasting period, Ramadan ba yung tawag nila? I'm not sure. It's too festive talaga. No, they will really celebrate after fasting. Not only that, they will give to the non-Muslims like us, someone we are recipients of their gifts. Like kakatay sila ng baka, tapos ipapamahagi nila sa mga tao, including us. Okay, mga non-Muslims. Okay, no? It brings communities together and sustain intergenerational cultural transmission. So this cultural plurality is not superficial. It structures social organization, the dispute resolution, including RIDO or clan wars, and local concepts of authority and moral order. Now, talking about colonial encounters and structural marginalization experienced by the diaspora. Spanish and American campaigns weakened Sultanate powers, land dispossession, and state-sponsored migration altered demography, which resulted into structural marginalization and exclusion from nation building. Okay? Colonial encounters with Spain and later with the Americans profoundly altered the southern Philippines political economy, of which Spanish military campaigns aimed to pacify the sultanates but never fully incorporated the region into colonial structures, of which subsequent American rule introduced new land reforms and policies, and state-sponsored Christian settler migration that shifted demographic balances and dispossessed many Muslim landholders. For instance, the Buddha massacre in 1906, of which you look at the picture, these Tausug people who really defied American rule. Now, because they defied, they went to Budaho Mountain in Sulu or Holo. There, they hid. They were caught. The battle has begun and they were killed, massacred by the Americans. Kaya hanggang ngayon, hindi mo kaya hindi mo talaga ma-question why until now ang gulo is really always linked with the Muslim diaspora. in southern Philippines because they were feel marginalized. They were excluded instead of being included. Okay? Nagkakaroon ng anong tawag nito? Ah, marginalization. Yung connotation, if you are a Muslim, is tantamount to terrorism. That's not the fact. That's wrong. Wrong wrong conclusion. Okay? These structural changes, which limited Muslim access to state resources and political power while redirecting development investment elsewhere, producing a legacy of marginalization, of which over the decades, exclusion from state building and economic opportunity fueled grievances. Yan na. Kaya nagkakaroon ng rising and conflicts. It became later part of the discourse behind separatists. That's yung mga separtado or separatist movements in the region. Recently, we have this. I don't know what is the cause. I am not yet updated as of this current time. The Basilan Tipo-Tipo conflict. I'll about to research about that. What cause for the um, Tipo-Tipo battle or conflict happened right now. No? And of course, what the struggle of Muslim really nagkaroon ng prutas or bumung because they really aim for autonomy in the area. Okay? Okay. Some conflicts and displacement happened post-war after World War II. Okay? MNLF and MILF responses to political exclusions. So their acts against the Philippine government per se and other state actors were responses to the political exclusions in the past and in today. That's why they really fought against the status quo. Kaya, yun, nagkabunga. And because of that, nagkaroon ng bunga. They were granted autonomy through the passage of Bangsamoro Organic Law, which established BARM, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. There were however, there were recurrent displacement and humanitarian crisis. They have such as the Marawi siege, specifically this in Zamboanga, the 2013 Zamboanga siege, wherein the economy, the pagpatakbo ng syudad were disrupted for 21 days. 20 to 21 days. Education, lahat, ang gulo, bala, kung kahit saan, putukan, kahit saan. Ah, ang pagkatakot ay andun, which cause long-term impacts, trauma, interrupted education, and loss of livelihoods. So, such colonial encounters, I'm sorry, widespread political exclusion and inequitable development help catalyze post-war insurgencies of MNLF in the 1970s by Nur Miswari and later of the MILF, of which MILF was the last witness the success of BOL, which establishes BARM. Okay? These movements evolved in response to failed land reforms of the state, the discrimination, not only the true policies, but of course among different cultures, and broken promises of inclusion. So, hindi nyo talaga ma-question kung bakit hindi lang po, hindi po terrorism yung purpose ng dalawang grupo, ng MN and MI, but a response of the long-term desires them including them in national policy and nation building. Armed conflicts precipitated large-scale displacement, disrupted the education, which I personally experienced, and livelihood, and created deep psychosocial trauma. Kaya pag may mga paputok dito sa amin, yung mga fireworks, we initially we were taught that again may pasabog na naman. But over and all, in transition, we trying to adapt again the normalcy, no? Wala na normal na paputok lang yung nagpapaputok sa taas. Okay? Which affected us then. Okay? The 27 Marawi siege is a stark instance or example of urban warfare. And even the 2013 siege, Zamboanga siege, caused by the MNLF, okay? Producing destruction, yung mga bahay na sunog, prolonged displacement, nandun sa evacuation center, hindi na alam kung saan-saan na tumira, and complex reconstruction challenges. So in Zamboanga Siege, it took us years to reconstruct some of the ground zeros and some government facilities that were used as evacuation center, especially the sports complex. It took almost 2019, no? From 2013 to 2019, na-reconstruct. Yung mga eskwelahan, ginawang evacuation center. So kung saan-saan may nag-aaral, may nakatira sa gilid, ang gulo ng sitwasyon that time. No? Which also highlighting both immediate humanitarian needs, no, and long-term social reintegration imperatives. Okay? Now, the path to peace and autonomy. No, that's why the two groups, recently the MILF, really fought hard. Now, dito yung bunga, the establishment of BARM, at least total autonomy, of which granted by the Constitution, no? Granted naman ng Constitution that they are entitled for autonomy. Okay? After decades of negotiation and intermittent violence, Bangsamoro Organic Law provided a legal basis for the creation of BARM in 2019 during the time of Duterte. That region establishes devolved governments or autonomy distinct from the national government. Devolved governance arrangement intended to return meaningful administrative and fiscal autonomy to local leadership. So parang quasi-federalism yung sistema nila. Yung autonomy ng lugar, majority sa kanila. Unlike in our unitary system, in general as a whole in the country, sila ibang-iba na yung sistema. They have the Bangsamoro Parliament, no, they elect it parang Congress nila, little Congress. Okay? Intended to return meaningful administrative and fiscal autonomy to local leadership, including powers in education, land and natural resource management, and specific civil application of Sharia law. So, the Bangsamoro Transitory Authority, hanggang ngayon pa rin, as of this date, hindi pa rin nagkakaroon ng eleksyon ang BARM. Kaya transitory authority pa rin yung part ng body, which is serve as the interim governing body while institutional capacities and legal frameworks are established. Okay. The region represents a landmark shift away from purely militarized approaches. Okay. Through this, naging from military, from barrel, into towards negotiated self-governance, into civil governance. But its success still depends on transparent governance, effective service delivery, and ability to manage complex local disputes and intercommunal tensions. Despite of its existence, which aims for self-governance, transition justice, and inclusive development, BARM still struggles to maintain stability. Why? Because dynasty exists. Alam nyo, especially when you see that map, Maguindanao del Norte, Maguindanao del Sur, that was previously in unison as Maguindanao province. Hinati yan because of dynasty. And there are cases on that province na if the two political families are in conflict, instead of they will vote on elections, hinahati nila yung munisipyo tulad yung probinsya ng Maguindanao del Norte and Maguindanao del Sur. Ampatuan versus I don't know what the other family in Norte. Ganyan yung ginagawa. So nagiging tidbits na yung probinsya. In order to resolve, yan yung disadvantage of that because of the absence of the provisions of political dynasty, which is also guaranteed. No? That is the very flaws of why up to until now, hindi pa rin umaasenso ang rehiyon. Kung mawala na yung konsepto, well, perhaps it would be, trying to progress. And there are some political maneuvers happening, not only in governance, in power, perhaps some in natural resources. Okay? No. Oh, look at this. The socio-economic profile and development challenges. So, higher poverty incidence in comparison with the national average. No, rates in many BARM provinces as per PSA. You just just research na lang. You compare the data or the poverty incidence of BARM versus the national. Mataas pa rin. And one thing, although Sulu is not anymore part of BARM recently because of a Supreme Court decision, but of course, Sulu is one of the poorest uh, province in the Philippines and in the region then dahil sa gulo. It is due to weak governance capacity, the land tenure disputes, the infra gap, limited investment, menial economy, combined with corruption and dynasty. Security pockets and local conflicts continue to hinder progress. Socio-economic indicator across many BARM provinces lag behind the national averages. Kahirapan is higher, school completion and literacy are lower, and infra, road, power, water remains uneven, lubak-lubak, blackout, especially in Marawi. I have a friend who is studying at MSU. Studied katatapos ng siguro, taking mechanical engineering. Walang internet doon. We communicate with him. It will took 2 to 3 hours for him to respond. That's the disadvantage of that. Okay? These deficits are compounded by weak local governance capacity, unresolved land tenure disputes that hinder investment and agrarian reform, and difficulties in attracting sustained private sector engagement due to perceived security and governance risk. Additionally, localized conflicts and sporadic violence continue to disrupt markets and deter long-term developments. Addressing these challenges requires simultaneous investment in public administration, reconciliation, mechanism, infrastructure, and human development. So, opportunities. This. There are concrete opportunities to transform BARM's potential into inclusive growth, which is harmonizing madrasa education with formal curriculum, and increasing vocational and tertiary access can build human capital that meets local market needs. The halal economy, ranging from fruit processing to halal certified tourism and Islamic finance, offers scalable value chains that aligns with local identities and global markets. Effective halal certification, training, and access to finance for the micro and small medium enterprises are prerequisites. Cultural tourism centered on heritage trails, festivals, and artisanal crafts like weaving can generate community income, of which is happening already, while reinforcing cultural preservation. Public and private partnerships, diaspora engagements, and targeted capacity building will be crucial to realize these opportunities. Cultural and civic contributions of the Muslim diaspora. Muslim communities in here have made enduring contributions to Philippine cultures. Yun na, yung ukil motifs, the kulintang musics. Doon na sa jeep namin dito, kung sasakay, nabibingin ako. And in architecture and crafts, distinct regional cuisines, and annual religion and communal festivals enrich national cultural life. Politically, Muslim leaders and civil society actors have played instrumental roles in peace negotiation, transnational governance, and local policy making. These cultural and civic contributions strengthen the country's pluralistic identity and provide bridges for intercultural exchange. Recognizing and integrating these contributions into national narratives helps combat marginalization and foster a more inclusive sense of citizenship. Marawi recovery and lessons. The Marawi siege in 2017 devastated the cityscape and displaced tens of thousands of people. The reconstruction goes beyond rebuilding physical infra. It must address psychosocial trauma, livelihood restoration, fair land clearance and resettlement, and heritage conservation of mosques or masjids, madrasas, and cultural sites. Lessons from the siege emphasize the importance of community-led planning, trauma-informed services, transparent land restitution processes, and the integration of affected populations into economic recovery programs to prevent marginalization or recurrence of the conflict. Coordinated efforts among national agencies, the BARM authorities, the donors, and the local civic society are indispensable for an equitable, durable recovery. Okay? Of course, my political recommendation of the future directions of the Muslim diaspora and the BARM currently. Okay? To consolidate peace and spur inclusive development, we should strengthen BARM's institutional capacity, accountability, and fiscal management so the region and the people can deliver public goods effectively. They should also prioritize integrated education reforms by modernizing madrasa curriculum, improving teacher training, and expanding vocational pathways linked to local industries. Of course, we promote or support halal value change through certification frameworks. I know, baka yung ISO nagsusupport na rin ng ganyan. The micro and small, medium, and enterprises financing and market linkages. We should invest in youth, yung mga kabataan, in leadership and women's economic and political participation as drivers of social development and cohesion, and scaling community-based reconciliation and mediation or conflict among the clans, programs to reduce violence, localized violence. Yan nangyayari sa tipo-tipo ngayon. Perhaps this measure should be implemented via participatory planning, regular monitoring, and partnership with civil society and the diaspora. So that concludes my presentation for this night. I hope that you have grasped the importance or the relevance of the Muslim diaspora and their contributions in the Philippines or in the country and in the region, the Southeast Asia, in the ASEAN as a whole. I know that they are still relevant today. Topics like this are still relevant and useful in academic discourse in ASEAN. Daghang salamat and God bless us all.